The day my son showed up at my house with a lawyer only 48 hours after his father died was the day I realized grief was not the only thing waiting for me. Some betrayals arrive quietly, dressed in expensive suits and polite smiles. They sit at your dining room table, sip your coffee, and act as if your heartbreak is simply another business matter to be handled. My name is Evelyn Harper, and for 31 years, my husband Raymond and I built a life together from almost nothing. He started a trucking company with a single-use truck and a dream that most people would have laughed at. I handled the bookkeeping from our kitchen table while he spent long days on the road. Over the years, that little company grew into something neither of us could have imagined. We never lived extravagantly. We stayed in the same home, drove practical cars, and focused on building a future for our family. Everything changed the evening Raymond came home from a doctor's appointment and barely spoke. He stood at the kitchen window, staring into the backyard we had spent decades caring for together. When I asked how the appointment went, he simply said everything was fine. Deep down, I knew it was not. 3 weeks later, he finally told me the truth. He had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors had already given him a timeline, and he had spent weeks trying to find the strength to tell me. After the shock settled, Raymond surprised me with an unusual request. He wanted me to move all of our money into accounts that belonged only to me. At first, I thought the illness was making him overly cautious. Then he explained why. Our daughter-in-law, Vanessa, had been asking questions about the company and our finances through people she should never have been speaking with. Raymond believed she already knew about his diagnosis and was preparing for what would happen after he was gone. Our son, Kyle, had not always been that way. He was a good kid who grew into a decent man. But after marrying Vanessa, he slowly became someone who avoided conflict and followed her lead. Raymond saw it long before I did. Reluctantly, I followed his instructions and moved everything exactly as he requested. When the transfers were complete, he handed me a sealed envelope and told me not to open it until I truly needed it. 59 days after revealing his diagnosis, Raymond passed away peacefully. I was holding his hand when he took his final breath. The silence that followed felt unbearable. I returned home alone and spent the night sitting in his favorite chair, staring at the darkness outside our window. 2 days later, Kyle called and said he wanted to come by to help sort through things. I thought he meant family matters. Instead, he arrived with Vanessa and a lawyer I had never met. The sight of them standing on my porch felt wrong immediately. The lawyer introduced himself and began discussing my husband's estate as if Raymond had been gone for months instead of days. I sat there stunned as Vanessa pushed for information about the company and its future. My husband had not even been buried yet. The flowers for his service had not been chosen, yet they were already treating his death like a financial opportunity. When I realized exactly what was happening, I calmly asked all 3 of them to leave my home. The moment their car disappeared down the driveway, I retrieved the envelope Raymond had hidden. Inside was a detailed explanation of everything he had done to protect me. 18 months earlier, he had quietly restructured ownership of the company. The majority of the business had already been legally transferred into my name. Kyle would eventually inherit a smaller portion through a trust, but it could never be controlled by a spouse. At the bottom of the letter, Raymond had written a final note. He said he had seen trouble coming long before anyone else, and only wished he had accepted the truth sooner. I immediately contacted our longtime attorney, Margaret. What followed uncovered an ugly reality. Vanessa had hired her lawyer weeks before Raymond died. She had also gained access to information about his diagnosis through an inappropriate connection at the medical office. Legal investigations followed. Lawsuits were filed. Settlements were reached. By the end of it all, Vanessa faced consequences she never expected. The hardest part was not dealing with her. It was facing my son. Several weeks later, Kyle sat across from me without Vanessa for the first time since everything began. He looked exhausted and ashamed. He admitted he knew about the lawyer, but insisted he never knew how Vanessa learned about his father's medical condition. Looking into his eyes, I believed him. What hurt was not that he masterminded the situation. It was that he stayed silent while it happened. He allowed someone else to make choices he should have challenged. He allowed greed to speak louder than loyalty. Today, the company is still thriving. We have more trucks than ever, and I know every driver by name. Raymond built something real, and I intend to honor that every day. Kyle and Vanessa eventually divorced. My relationship with my son is not what it once was, but it is healing. We talk regularly now, and little by little, trust is finding its way back. The greatest lesson I learned from all of this has nothing to do with money. Real love prepares for the future, even when facing the end. Raymond knew he would not be here to protect me forever. So, he did everything he could while the people who truly love you do not just stand beside you during good times. They make sure you can keep standing long after they are gone. If this story meant something to you, if you've ever been protected by someone's foresight and love, hit that subscribe button. These are stories about real love, the kind that plans for your future even when they won't be there to see it. About betrayal that arrives in expensive suits, and the